Greetings, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of the Terra Venture Podcast. Anthony on Power Rangers Lost Galaxy fan film with episode 366, presented by my Morphin Megaverse Power Rangers Facebook group. And also, Happy New Year, Happy 2023, and welcome to Power Rangers' overall 30th anniversary. And here I am, PR Lost Galaxy 2014 with the video commentaries, but even though we're still continuing from the last season, but I won't start the new season until when it's like season 9 already. I'm still doing leftovers of the last season of podcast episodes by season. Even though I was supposed to close out on episode 22, discussing why Beast Morphers is better than Dino Fury, which I released before the Christmas holiday. I hope you guys enjoyed that rant. If you didn't like it, well, that's fine. To each their own. So with the 30th anniversary of Power Rangers now on us and upon us all, I do want to talk about a little bit of more remnants of Dino Fury before we get into 2023. But to be honest, though, if you guys didn't know about my sentiments about Dino Fury on my last couple of episodes of the podcast, I talked about how I was very mixed on Dino Fury. I never said it was a great series. I never said it was a terrible series either. It was just one of those seasons of Power Rangers that I just didn't really seem to care at the point. While as much as I liked Hasbro's efforts with Beast Morphers and Dino Fury both, but Beast Morphers had the better reverence of honoring the past with Power Rangers. Dino Fury, I feel as though, has been blown completely out of proportion with the fan base, and honestly, I'm in that minority that does not like Dino Fury. Just saying. But like I said, there's a few things to like about it, and I know that some person who was a huge Dino Fury fan will tell me, here you are, 2023, and you're still rambling about Lost Galaxy in space and all those other seasons that are just old to us nowadays. Get with the times. Now, today I say with a middle finger, fuck you. Okay, that's a bit too harsh. But to be honest, though, well, look, Power Rangers has been around for 30 years now. I've seen good seasons from the show. I've seen bad seasons from the show. Now, no TV show is by any means perfect. Not even a show that's lasted longer than it did. Because usually, a lot of kid shows don't last as long. But this show, alongside something like Sesame Street, that has lasted long. Even SpongeBob. But particularly when it comes to something live action action-adventure superhero show like Power Rangers. It may be a kid show, but as a grown 30-year-old man celebrating the 30th anniversary of something from my childhood, I'm never going to give up. Once a Ranger, always a Ranger. Despite no matter what bad stuff I'm being thrown at with Power Rangers, there is still going to be something out there for me to watch and consume and talk about. But although Dino Fury just wasn't my cup of tea, I watched all of it. I've already gave my thoughts on it. Go and watch it and listen to what I had to say. But speaking of from that episode, I did want to touch on about Lord Zedd and his return in Dino Fury. What threw me off, even from when I came across the spoilers for Dino Fury, was that they did bring back Lord Zedd. But at what cost? What was the reason for Lord Zedd to return? Like, I don't get it. I mean, I understand that with the 30th anniversary of Power Rangers already on us, but when Dino Fury was going on for these last 2 years, from 2021 to 2022, I get they want us to get set up and teased for what's yet to come for the 30th anniversary in 2023. And here's another thing I also want to bring up. Here's the thing with us Power Ranger fans. And when it comes to villains and the actors that portray them. I've been a Power Rangers fan for as long as I remember as a 90s kid. And for any of those older than me that are fans of certain of like Mighty Morphin or any other season outside of it when it comes to certain actors playing certain roles. You know, specifically when you talk about villains, particularly villains that have played such tremendous, villainous, evil, diabolical, ruthless roles of these colorful but darkly cast of villains in Power Rangers. When you have someone else playing that, when you think of that character, you usually associate that actor or voice actor or actress, voice actress with that role. But once that actor, actress, and voice actress sadly all of a sudden passes away, it's hard seeing other actors take up that role after the original person is gone. With the exception, now, for instance, now when it came to certain villains that are like considered one of the greatest in all of Power Rangers, when I think of Power Ranger villains outside of Rita and Lord Zedd, when you think about the actors who played them, especially the face villains, you know, Carla Perez playing Rita Repulsa for the American footage. Yeah, we have Marucho Soga, the late Marucho Soga, rest her soul, for playing Bandora for Zoo Ranger. That would be Rita Repulsa for the first season of Power Rangers, lifted from the Zoo Ranger footage, and even that Zoo 1.1 footage made exclusive for PR. Then you also have, when it comes to other face villains, Divatox, Astronema, Trakina, Rancic, Toxica and Master Org, Lothor, Tanaya 7, villains like that, for instance. Those are, most of them are, well, half of them, say for Toxica, are examples of villains that are made exclusive for Power Rangers, well, with the exception of Rita, since Rita was based on Bandora from Zoo Ranger, but, you know, Rita Repulsa was more popular than Bandora, just saying. But when you have, see, one of the things that I liked about Power Rangers is the American villains. When it comes to villains, you see, the villains that are made exclusive for our American show, they end up being one of the greatest pieces of Power Rangers of all time. And when you think about villains like Rancic or Trakina or Astronema or Master Org, you know, you think about how interesting those villains are and why they ended up being one of the greatest villains among the fandom. But for the normies and casuals who only know about Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Lord Zedd, who is the only American-made villain from the Mighty Morphin era, is the most popular and the most iconic, the most recognizable villain of all of Power Rangers, and not just Mighty Morphin. Sure, yeah, Zedd has been a very popular villain for the last almost 30 years, since 1994, where that character debuted. Back in the season 2 premiere, when the show was airing in primetime, no less, The Mutiny, where they introduced Lord Zedd, and when the Rangers had to switch out the Dino Zords for the quote-unquote more powerful Thunder Zords. But it didn't seem that way, wasn't it? Well, as time went on, well, Lord Zedd was an awesome villain from the beginning, and how menacingly dark and evil-looking and scary. Now, and like I've said before, I don't think a lot of you, for new viewers who haven't heard about my backstory with Power Ranger villains and about what are my favorite Power Ranger villains of all time when it came to my sentiment about Lord Zedd with another villain. When I was a little kid in 1994, I was a year going on 2 years old when the second season of Power Rangers came out. So basically, season 2 was basically my real start with Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Well, when season 1 of Mighty Morphin happened, I was only a thumb-sucking 1-year-old baby who didn't know much yet. So it wouldn't be until when I was like 2 years old, and by the time my brother was born in September, no less, and months before Tommy became the White Ranger, and we got the 3 new Rangers out of Rocky, Aisha, and Adam replacing Jason, Zach, and Trini. That was where I really got my kick of MMPR, when I was only 2 years old. Because when I was only a year old, I don't really remember much from season 1 until many times they would rerun those episodes. But season 2, that was my real start with MMPR. But when it came to Lord Zedd, I mean, I never really found him all that scary as a 2-year-old. He looked pretty cool to me. He was the Darth Vader, Megatron, Shredder of my generation. Even though Shredder is a notable villain from the Ninja Turtles, and knowing the fact that Shredder, you know, Ninja Turtles was just as popular as Power Rangers at the time, but yeah, I recall the Shredder. Now, even when I look at the Shredder from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, for instance, Shredder never scared me. Not even with Megatron from the original Transformers, even though via that, again, that Generation 2 stuff at the time. Darth Vader from Star Wars. But again, back then I wasn't a Star Wars fan, but I pretty much vaguely knew who Darth Vader was. I've always knew his costume all the time. And yeah, Darth Vader was a very menacing, badass villain. But when it came to Lord Zedd, I never found him all that intimidating, all that frightening, that much when I was a kid. But the one Power Rangers villain at the time of the Mighty Morphin era, but not in canon with the TV show, that used to frighten me at one point was Ivan Ooze. Because, man, I remember when the first Power Rangers movie came out. I was 2 going on 3 years old at the time. Ivan Ooze, you may like that good old Ooze, man. Thank you, Paul Freeman, for that role. But when I was 2 going on 3 years old, Ivan Ooze used to scare the shit out of me. Maybe it's because of his makeup, the way how his face looked, and then the amount of purple with evil for him. And even though, yeah, Ivan Ooze basically was the kid-friendly Power Ranger version of Freddy Krueger from the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, a cross between that and the High Grand Witch from The Witches by Angelica Houston. But I digress. But Lord Zedd, he was one of the most fearsome villains in his earlier episodes after he dethroned Rita Repulsa for basically, all her consecutive failures. Now, look, Lord Zedd has had a long history in the show and outside of the show when it came to his infamy among Power Rangers. But fast forward to like early 95, 28 years ago now, since 1995. And ever since, Lord Zedd was forced to be married to Rita. That was because parent complaints. All the stuff that made Zedd so great and evil. Yeah, he was still evil, but then due to parent complaints, he was bogged down to be a simpleton, basically. But season 3, while Rita and Zedd were together, I would say Mighty Morphin season 3, one of the reasons why I like that third season, and I will eventually do a video on Mighty Morphin season 3 in the podcast and talk about my reasons why I preferred that season of MMPR over the first 2, is that when Rita and Zedd worked together, they were a very unstoppable force of evil. And the times they destroyed the Rangers' original Mighty Morphin powers, and then their new powers tied with the ninja powers, and the Zords. And once they blew up the command center and everything. But then after the Mighty Morphin era ended, then Rita and Zedd took a backseat during Power Rangers Zeo. The Machine Empire were going to be the new threat of evil to fight the Power Rangers, while the Rangers got those awesome, badass Zeo powers thanks to the power of the Zeo Crystal. And thanks for the Alien Ranger saga for having us get us really more hyped up with that. But once that progressed, Rita and Zedd were relegated to even more further comic relief, to the point Rita and Zedd, especially Lord Zedd, wasn't all that interesting anymore. Rita and Zedd were promised to come back after they they blew up the Machine Empire in the beginning of Power Rangers Turbo. But again, Divatox took up that whole season and movie of that, and Rita and Zedd didn't really make a comeback. Once we had all those villains of the past 5 years come into 6 years. Now, for any of us Power Rangers and Space fans out there, Power Rangers in Space turns the big silver monumental 25th anniversary this year in 2023. And to the point that In Space was supposed to be the final season. So when really, though, they did bring back every villain that we had up to that point before Astronema and Ecliptor, the Psycho Rangers, and Dark Spectre in them. And Lord Zedd, along with Rita, his wife, Empress of All Evil Rita, and everybody from Zeo and Turbo was coming back. And then of course, we have Astronema, who was the last piece, the centerfold piece of the buildup of villains to be formed of the United Alliance of Evil. But even then, Zedd was still a simpleton, but he was still a badass evil villain. Although we only had what little, time we had with Zedd during Power Rangers in Space in the first episode and in the final episode. So Zedd was only around for only part 1 of From Out of Nowhere and both parts of Countdown to Destruction. Now, here's another thing. Now, I'm not going to count that non-canon Super Legends video game because Power Rangers Super Legends, that video game that celebrated Power Rangers 15th anniversary 15 years ago, is not canon to the series. It was just a video game that honored 15 years of Power Rangers, but it's kind of a what if. Lord Zedd went through multiple dimensions and all this other stuff to try to wreck the relic of time of all of Power Rangers history. And it was up to that futuristic SPD Omega Ranger from a much more distant future. But again, that video game isn't canon. But after Countdown to Destruction, when Andros shattered Zordon's tube, and when the following villains were turned to dust, the villains that turned good, Rita, Zedd, Divatox, and Astronema. When Rita and Zedd and Divatox were turned from their villainous selves to more human purity side of good self, Lord Zedd was human, but we never knew what his name was. Even though, yeah, it was nice that they had a suit actor, Ed Neal, who had a few appearances, in Power Rangers outside of the Lord Zedd costume suit acting appearance. He would be Lord Zedd's human form, and then that dumbass goofy painter from that, Trakina episode in Lost Galaxy when she turned human for one episode. But I always figured that Lord Zedd was gone for good, as so as we thought. But then you fast forward 23, 24, 25 some years later, Power Rangers Dino Fury resurrects the Emperor of all he sees, evil. And here's my thoughts on this. Now that even though when I did watch Dino Fury, I did watch all of those episodes, especially the Halloween episode. Old Foes, was it? Yeah, Old Foes. Dino Fury's only Halloween episode. I really didn't know what to think anymore. It was a surprise Lord Zedd came back because I guess it made sense back in Dino Fury. No, not Dino Fury. Beast Morphers. Well, they were if you go back to Beast Morpher Season 2's Halloween episode, Making Bad, which was a clip show of past Power Ranger episodes where the Beast Morpher villains wanted to figure some villains that they want to resurrect next, following Sledge and crew for the, even though they were going to bring in Goldar, but they were planning on bringing back older villains that haven't been seen in so long. They were considering villains like Korag and Astronema, but both those villains were turned good, Liambo and Karome respectively. But the villains that have been pure evil and have been defeated by Ranger teams like Trakina, for instance. But unfortunately, Trakina is long gone, but yeah, her actress still remains, but she's retired and all of that. But there's other people that there's other villains that also we haven't seen in so long, like Miratrix from Operation Overdrive. They could have even considered her to come back. They could have thought about anybody from Megaforce or Samurai to come back, but nope, all those villains are gone. So they settled with Goldar as aka Goldar Maximus, basically an upgraded version of Goldar from, again, since they were going by what was when they're now adapting the Kyryuger versus Go Buster Dino Ranger team up thing from Sentai for Power Rangers, which I was happy they did. It makes sense for Goldar because when they brought Jason back as well, there was a final battle that was long overdue between Jason and Goldar. The beef Goldar had with Jason for so long, and finally put that rivalry to an end after 28, 25 some years. So that was another reason that they brought back Goldar. But then all of a sudden Dino Fury had the audacity to bring back Lord Zedd, and honestly, I mind them recreating his costume, make it more shinier with all that silvery chrome, and made his suit more magenta-y red looking for his much evil looking appearance. And I do mind his visor being black this time around as opposed to that shiny, glossy red visor he had in the old days. But what threw people off, and I know one person that who's a huge Power Rangers fan and a huge Mighty Morphin fan, had opened his disappointment with the voice of Lord Zedd being changed. For a lot of people who didn't think about when Rita was brought up as the Mystic Mother in Mystic Forces finale, they had Marucho Soga from the Manji Ranger footage because, again, that was her final Sentai performance until her death from pancreatic cancer in 2006. That they didn't even bother getting Barbara Goodson to do the voice of Rita, but again, that was probably because union reasons between the actors that worked on Power Rangers when production on the show was still being shot in the States versus people that's part of the Actors Union of New Zealand to be involved with dubbing over existing characters in Power Rangers. And so, again, the voice dubbers that we got, especially like the voice actress dubber for Rita as the Mystic Mother, Susan Brady, who also voiced Rita in that archive footage of Rita from Zeo for the Making Bad episode of Beast Morphers. Well, okay, I guess that makes sense. But then they also had to get someone who was another alumni from Disney-era Power Ranger voice acting lore. The voice actor who was the voice of not Venjix or Evox, but the voice of Master Lope from Jungle Fury. Now, his voice of Zedd was not even close to what I was imagining if Zedd was to return. And even though, you couldn't get Robert Axelrod, because not only that, as much as I will always cherish Robert Axelrod, but here's the thing, and this ties back to what I said earlier about Power Ranger fans, or even fans with all other franchises and fandoms. I said this back around the New Year's before this recording, that when it comes to certain actors playing certain roles, we, the fans, only see those actors as those characters. We don't want to see nobody else playing it because, I get it, we're more used to seeing certain actors playing certain characters or voicing certain characters. Like right now, like if you think back with that upcoming Super Mario Brothers animated movie, people were so against Chris Pratt voicing Mario, and they don't want to, and yet the movie decided to go for Hollywood talent and not for actors who actually put heart and soul to those roles in the overall franchise, which is really seen as a niche with the mainstream. And a voice actor like the actor who does the voice of Mario, for instance, in the Super Mario games, they didn't even want to bother getting him for that movie, so they got Chris Pratt and anybody up with the higher ups from Hollywood. And I understand voice actors that we grew up in with the cartoons and stuff we watched on Nickelodeon, Disney, Cartoon Network, and them are part of a certain union, a certain voice actor union compared to the mainstream union of actors of the Screen Actors Guild in Hollywood and Los Angeles and all of that. But you gotta understand they have to deal with what they have to deal with. And it's easier to use Hollywood talent for the roles than actors that are part of a certain union, because again, here's the thing with union versus non-union actors, and if an actor, for instance, if an actor part of the Screen Actors Guild be a part of something big, something small and niche like Power Rangers, it would be likely a violation of their contract and their involvement with that actors union, and then they would not be able to have any more work because they were involved with a non-union production like Power Rangers. That would explain why most of my favorite actors and voice actors I've always fan cast for years for future Power Ranger movies. Well, those actors are old as hell now and all that, but even then, they still wouldn't be a part of this brand, because Power Rangers, for as long as when Saban, Disney, and Saban again has had this brand before Hasbro got their hands on it, this franchise has been completely non-union, hands-off a lot. And so if there's any actors from the Screen Actors Guild, but mainstream, main line, A-list, B-list line of actors to be a part of this franchise, if they're ever going to be a part of it, they have to be under a certain pseudonym, because it's part of a certain rule of them being a part of the Screen Actors Guild, I guess, from what I'm hearing. And I know I may be talking out of my ass about that, but that's kind of true. So they kind of don't want to use any big name actors to do Lord Zedd or any other villain. And of all the times I always wanted to imagine what Hollywood actress, if a Power Rangers Lost Galaxy movie reboot was made, who should play Trakina. Of all the times I've been struggling to find a decent actress that resembles Trakina and what Amy Miller Role brought to that role of the insectile ruler of the universe, daughter of Scorpius, and all of that from Lost Galaxy. And of course, we can't, it's hard seeing other actors and actresses playing certain key villains that are huge fan favorites, especially the American-made villains like Lord Zedd or Trakina or Divatox or Lothor. So it's easier to say said and done. That, of course, Power Ranger fans only want actors that were these roles and those roles only. And I think maybe it's because I don't think it's really more of a typecasting thing. And also, another Power Ranger villain whose actor has passed away and the character is fully on retired, Grant McFarlane, who played Lothor, who was also the Rangers' guinea pig mentor from Ninja Storm. And so Grant McFarlane, he's gone. So if they do anything Power Rangers Ninja Storm reverence for like resurrecting Lothor, bringing him back would be disservice to anyone who liked McFarlane for playing Lothor in Ninja Storm. So that's another disservice. If there were other villains that I love to see come back for even for the 30th anniversary, well, the 30th anniversary has different plans of its own, but again, it was all wishful thinking before this point. But bringing back villains like Trakina, again, Amy Roll still exists. She came back in that Trakina getup at this past year's Power Morphicon, but they're not going to think about calling her up and fly her off to New Zealand, even though she's like the only cast member from Lost Galaxy. She's one of the few cast members from Lost Galaxy that didn't go to New Zealand, but yet her ex-husband, former Green Ranger Reggie Roll did. But then again, it's a no-show, and again, they were planning on bringing Trakina back in that Beast Morphers, Halloween episode of them doing a clip show of what villains they wanted to resurrect. But and then when they brought up Trakina, I was happy, but then I was also disappointed more. Rather, I guess maybe Trakina should just stay dead. And hell, like I also would say, for future reference, if there will be a day, if there came a time if Trakina's original actress was not available anymore, I mean, as in like she passed away, then they can't use her character in the main show. And I bet you even probably when we have that Power Ranger cinematic universe, they'll probably no, only Amy Roll can play Trakina. We can't see no other, actually for certain fans who will say that. I mean, but even though personally, as much as I've been a fan of that character, I've always been more associated with Amy playing that role, but somehow deep down in my gut, I feel like if there was a reboot movie and stuff of Power Rangers, I want to see other actresses try to take a stab at her, or just don't have the character at all. Same go for other villains too, like Divatox, Astronema, and Rita, and Lothor or Mesogog, and all those other villains. Even though some of the actors that were, especially the villains outside of Lothor, but like Mesogog, his actor is still around. But again, Mesogog was defeated in Dino Thunder's episode Final. So Anton Mercer is reformed. So Mesogog is no more. Unless you want to bring Mesogog back, just have his actor just provide the voice of him again if you just brought him back. You don't need Anton Mercer again. Tanaya 7. Like, again, Tanaya in RPM, again, Tanaya, she got reformed. And again, the Vengeance virus was removed from her. As much as I still don't like Tanaya, but I have to understand she's Dylan's sister, even though, again, that was what Judd Linden imported into RPM's final half because, again, they just wanted to get that season over with and all that, and also retcon what Eddie Gazillion did not have intentions for Tanaya to do. So, but I have to understand that, even though as much as I don't like Tanaya 7 or 15 or whatever her name is, but I have to understand that Tanaya is also a fan favorite, although I don't really like her personally. There's other villains that we've had in the past. I mean, Daishi and Jared and Camille. Well, Jared, when he was possessed by Daishi in Jungle Fury, I mean, his actor is still around, but if they brought him back without his actor not being notified, I mean, like, if they ever bring him back for like the next anniversary of Power Rangers, even though they're not going to bring back everybody and all that stuff, because again, because what Hasbro said, they're going to like move on from this continuity we've been following for now 3 decades. But that's besides the point. But, like, here's the thing. Hearing his voice in Dino Fury, though, it just didn't sound like Lord Zedd. It sounded more like a great value discount version of Zedd's voice. Of all the times I used to harp about Trakina being recast with another actress in the Lightspeed Rescue team up, But I've already softened up on Trakeena's Revenge and recently, but for the 22, 23 years since Lightspeed Rescue now, I need to get over it. It was time for me to make peace with that. But now it feels like it's time for me to not make peace with Lord Zedd being recast voice-wise. But I have to understand, Robert Axelrod, he died in 2019. And having somebody else voicing Lord Zedd feels like a derogation and a sin to see anybody play that character, voice that character, sound like that character, or do his evil laugh. You know, personally, I was not really that fond of the voice of Lord Zedd in Dino Fury while they had his costume and everything, but I really did not like how it didn't sound even hardly ever like that character at all to me. Well, in a way, it just felt like a cheap knockoff voice for him or something. I mean, hell, now, if you haven't noticed, I have been playing Power Rangers Battle for the Grid. Of all the times I was being hypocritical about that 4 years ago, but now look at me, 4 years later, I'm playing it. Damn, I'm such a fucking hypocrite. But listening to Lord Zedd's voice in the Battle for the Grid game, that was a more definitive post Rob Axelrod Zedd voice, and they couldn't even bother to get Lord Zedd's voice actor from the Battle for the Grid game for Dino Fury, because I thought he seemed more fitting for the role if they had him in the show instead of, you know, using Master Lope from Jungle Fury doing the voice of Lord Zedd. That's just my 2 cents on that, because honestly, I wasn't a big fan of the voice that they got for him. Second off, while I do like the updated look of his costume, even though his costume has been horrible for wear after we last saw him in live action on the show and Countdown to Destruction in Power Rangers in Space. But what's with that muscle mass on Lord Zedd? How much muscle did Zedd actually needed for Dino Fury? Like, they didn't really need to bulk him up, put him on like super evil steroids and all of that. I mean, Zedd was never that muscular. When I look at Lord Zedd in, like, you know, like many pieces of Power Rangers media before Dino Fury, when I look at Lord Zedd in the original Mighty Morphin, or any episodes of Zeo that had Lord Zedd in it, or Power Rangers in Space, or any video game appearances that he was in, or even recently in the Boom Studio comics, Lord Zedd never looked all that roided up. Yeah, they always showed his flesh showing exoskeletal muscle in veins, but he was never that muscular. He was never that, you know, no homo, thick. He was never all of that, any of that mass muscle. Like, as if Lord Zedd was working out too much to the point he didn't care how, you know, big and powerful he was getting now. You know, they didn't really need to do that. Just saying, they didn't really need to do that. But again, as much as I mind his return in the series, but it also feels like it's just also another thing I need to jab about also with the costume. The quality. The quality of the Lord Zedd costume featured in Power Rangers Dino Fury, and of course when he does come back with a much big pivotal role for our upcoming Cosmic Fury season. And I'm just like, man, Lord Zedd, like, the quality of Lord Zedd's costume looks like one of those, like it looks like one of those versions of Lord Zedd's outfit that they used back in those old Power Ranger World Tour things back in 1995. In terms of the quality of it, especially for 2021, 2022 standards. And I just felt like, well, even though it is accurate to what Lord Zedd always looked like, but it's just the proportions of the mass of the muscle, the stature of the costume. It just looked a little off, especially from the neck and collarbone area of it and the shoulders. And then when I think about also the sizing of the visor on this helmet, the visor just looked, well, yeah, it does look exactly how, but the grill for his mouth it looked a little way too big, looking like one of those knockoff, like how like back in the early 90s when there was an attempt to do a live action G.I. Joe sort of thing. And I remember how horribly low budget Cobra Commander looked in live action for that live action 90s G.I. Joe, whatever that thing was back in the 90s, but or like Shredder from the Ninja Turtles, from like that coming, out of your Turtles, that Turtle tour and your Shell tour, whatever that horrible TMNT tour show thing was in the early 90s with Shredder's look. And I really did not like that. And it screamed that kind of quality. But I do mind the amount of shine and chrome to the silver areas of Lord Zedd. But again, like I said, I still have gripes about the amount of muscle in his outfit is all. And also the quality of the suit. And while, even though this was, I don't know if they ever used a prototype Lightning Collection Lord Zedd helmet. No, that's no way. No way. But it's close, because again, looking at that Lightning Collection Lord Zedd helmet, you can easily get on Hasbro Pulse and everywhere. I mean, it looks almost close to that quality. My next gripe about Lord Zedd's inclusion in Dino Fury is like, what was the need for him, really? Like, I mean, I get that you're trying to set us up, preparing ourselves for 30 years of Power Rangers with Cosmic Fury, but to be honest, though, and like I said about me not being all that excited about Cosmic Fury and them doing Q Ranger, and then potentially taking the main villain from Q Ranger, of the main leader of the Dark Matter villains from Q Ranger, and when they show his final form, okay, so I guess that makes sense, because if you see Lord Zedd's cranium with the brain, that would, that maybe they'll probably tie that with Lord Zedd having a true final form, and hopefully this would be the end of Lord Zedd as we know him for good this time. But it also feels asinine how they're going to implement and utilize Lord Zedd, since he's been an American Power Rangers villain for 30 years, and taking the lead big bad villain, that cloaked Emperor Palpatine like villain, leader of the Dark Matter, Don Armagi from Q Ranger, when they showed his true final form with the cranium and the brain and stuff, similar to like Dementor from that Turbo Man stuff from that Jingle All the Way movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger, or like the villain, the leader from the Marvel Universe, who is a villain from the Hulk with the cranium and stuff. But I'm just like, how you gonna do this? Because personally, why? I mean, I understand it, as much as I'm still a little peeved about Cosmic Fury doing Q Ranger stuff, but I'm just like, how you guys going to implement this? How you going to do this? Because of course, making Lord Zedd Emperor Gorma from Die Ranger and MMPR Season 2 wouldn't make sense, so keep Lord Zedd the way he is. But I mean, hell, maybe they should come with a more original design of Lord Zedd in his ultimate form that we have never seen before, instead of using. But again, they're going to do it anyway, because again, they announced Q Ranger for Cosmic Fury, and I'm still like, ugh. But I just really don't feel as though that why are they going to need to do Lord Zedd this very way. And also, I get that they want to make him more pivotal to Dino Fury's role, because again, Dino Fury was intended to be the final season of Power Rangers of this ongoing continuity. Though, even though when Cosmic Fury does hit on Netflix later this year, and when all 10 episodes do air, I feel as though that it may be the end of this continuity of Power Rangers we've been following for so long, because again, given what Hasbro has said numerous times and what fans have speculated what they're going to do with that reboot universe of movies and shows and stuff, that if Dino Fury and Cosmic Fury does end up being the end of this 30-year incarnation of Power Rangers that we've been following for so long, then this is it. And if Lord Zedd does do this big ultimate, does have this huge ultimate reveal for his final form for the final few episodes of Cosmic Fury, then okay. But honestly, I feel like they're going to go all out and treat it as though this is the end of Power Rangers as we know it. And once again, Dino Fury and Cosmic Fury will be like In Space, Wild Force, and RPM before it to be the end of Power Rangers. Well, as we've known it for so long. But even though, again, I'm just not a big fan of Lord Zedd's inclusion in Dino Fury. When it was with Goldar back in Beast Morphers, it made more sense. Because, of course, they were also doing the Dino Ranger team up. They brought back Sledge's crew and Snide, so it made sense to bring back Goldar as Goldar Maximus for Beast Morphers for that Dino Ranger team up in great connection. Lord Zedd had no business or purpose being in Dino Fury without reasoning why he's back. Even though, yeah, they did a little backstory when in the same Halloween episode when Solon would tell Ollie about the backstory of Lord Zedd, but even though it was very truncated and simplified, for the newer viewers who never knew who Lord Zedd was, and for those who weren't young enough around the time when MMPR was out. But they probably already know about even for any of newer people, new older fans, new adult fans who don't even know about, Lord Zedd or Power Rangers in general, they'll probably don't even know what the heck is going on with the Lord. They're just going to blindly just watch it as it is. But to be honest, though, I just feel like Lord Zedd's inclusion in Dino Fury and with Cosmic Fury on the horizon in 10 months, 10 months, because 10 episodes, just like these modern seasons of South Park, which is one of the reasons why I stopped watching that. I mean, South Park in earlier seasons, before season 17, they had like more episodes and, to last a year, but then they shortened to 10 episodes just to capitalize on what a lot of shows on Netflix literally have been doing lately. So, yeah, and that's why I stopped watching South Park. Once again, I digress. But yeah, I just don't know how they're going to do Lord Zedd. I know they're going to ruin him even further. It's already bad enough the parents of 1994-95 have ruined Lord Zedd, but Dino Fury and Cosmic Fury is going to ruin Lord Zedd even more. To the point, you're ruining a great villain when you had him or her. I mean, can you imagine if they brought back other villains? Even though of all the times I had my gripes about with Trakina, and I know how that was for so long with me as a Lost Galaxy fan and a Power Rangers fan in general. But when it comes to a fan of one of the greatest villains of all time and one of the greatest Mighty Morphin villains of all time and all of Power Rangers, you guys are just butchering and character assassinating Lord Zedd even more. And it's just very disrespectful to the people who liked his character from the Mighty Morphin days. It sucks. I mean, yeah, Lord Zedd never fought the Rangers directly. Yeah, I'll give Dino Fury this. Yeah, Lord Zedd fought the Dino Fury Rangers. While his new voice sucks, but he really laid waste on the Dino Fury Rangers. Because I don't like the Dino Fury Rangers all that much. And I know that Lord Zedd never got to do that with the Mighty Morphin Rangers. The only time he fought any of the Rangers directly was, again, during Season 3 when he fought Tommy. When Tommy was trying to rescue Kimberly from that dark dimension number, whatever, back in Changing of the Zords, part 3. So I don't see why is it that they have to do him like this. It's just, we've come so far with Lord Zedd, but I'm like, man, they just really fucked him up hard, even in Dino Fury. And now Cosmic Fury is going to ruin him even worse. I know I'm being a little bit pessimistic about it, but I just don't know. I just don't want to, I mean, I may watch Cosmic Fury, but I'm just going to be like, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this. So I hope you guys, I hope you guys enjoyed or didn't like what I had to say about this, because what are your thoughts on Lord Zedd's return in Dino Fury? Do you thought it was great that he came back, even though I have to understand that Robert Axelrod may rest in power, but I guess it's hard for a lot of us to see someone else doing the voice of him, despite the fact Axelrod was, well, yeah, but he was great as both not only Lord Zedd, but Finster and several voices of monsters he also did over the course of the first few seasons of Power Rangers. Even that little human, even that non-voice acting cameo he did in that one episode of Time Force, which was great. But then again, gotta understand that Robert Axelrod will always be Lord Zedd to us older fans. But man, I know it's hard seeing someone else doing that role. So anyway, I hope you guys be sure to subscribe and drop a like and hit a bell notification when I do a new episode of something like this regarding Power Ranger Sentai and the fandom and whatnot. And I'll see you guys later. But man, this just fucking blows.